I'm Corbett Wall with DV Auction, here with the cattle market summary for the week ending May the 29th, where even though we had a holiday week, there was a lot of interesting trade that went on this week and showed a lot of signs of what may be coming up this summer. Of course, nothing happened at all on Monday. The board was closed. Most all your big feeder cattle auctions were closed except for a special here and there, but hardly anything at all on Monday, which gets you off to a really slow start. But as we got into the week, Tuesday and Wednesday, we went on and really saw a lot of strong cash feeder cattle demand. And that strong feeder demand for those cash cattle in the sale barns and out in the country too really kind of spurred things along and really kind of pulled the board with it. And we saw some interesting gains there in the middle of the week on the board. Of course, your fed cattle weren't going to gain near as much as your feeders, but as we lost May on the feeder board, we saw some big gains there, triple-digit gains there for a couple days, and way over $3 on August feeders on Thursday there. But you know, it was really interesting to see that market come up. But then, of course, on Friday you got profit taking and things like that. We had a lot of open interest and a lot of volume added this week. But you know, Friday they took the profits back, and fed cattle futures pretty much lost everything they gained on Friday, but feeders took some back but still saw some pretty good gains. And actually we saw the feeder board trade at a premium to what cash is right now, even though it's the August board. That's kind of a strong sign right there that now the people that are trading the board realize that what everybody else in the industry knows, that these green yearlings coming off grass there in August are going to bring quite a bit more than what they're bringing right now. But you know, a lot of this is brought on by the big rains we're seeing. Of course, destructive floods down there in South Texas and really all the way up through North Texas, Oklahoma, and into Kansas. But you know, aside from everything you see on TV about all the destruction and people driving off into running water and all that kind of thing, the rest of the country that they don't show on TV is getting these big, nice, soaking, heavy rains and heavy rains, full bore rains that are filling up all these pond tanks that haven't been up to the top in a long time. So that is always going to help your cattle business when you have a whole lot of rain and you've got lush pastures and you've got plenty of water for the cattle to drink and everything. And El Nino really a lot of times doesn't amount to too much, but this time that warming in that Central Pacific has really flexed its muscle there and shown what it can do. And so we're seeing a lot of positive in the cattle market from that. Now on the other side, we're seeing a lot of positive up in the Corn Belt. They haven't been getting those big floods up there, but that rain and clouds and everything is moving on up there and giving nice moisture for this corn crop, which is off to its best start in a long time. So you're seeing all these farmer feeders really coming into the market because they know that this corn market's not apt to get a whole lot better unless we get some kind of a bad storm, or if it doesn't warm up. It really needs to start warming up and get some sunshine on that corn to make it grow. But they're coming into these sales. They've gotten back into the feeding business in the last year or two, and they're pushing hard for some of these feeding cattle to walk some of that corn to town. But your yearling feeders sold $3 to $6 higher at the close of the week this week because we got off to such a slow start there, and they just keep going up. But we're reminded that this cattle market, it's not a rubber ball. It doesn't have to come back down, not right away yet. So even though we're still flying high and getting higher all the time up there on these feeder cattle and all classes of cattle prices, doesn't mean that they have to trip back to where we traded forever for a long time. But we saw some good signs of what the market's going to do. On Friday here, the Joplin Regional Stockyards video, which is broadcasted on DV Auction, you ought to get on and watch that whenever they have it, had a few signs of how good this summer yearling grass market's going to be. And in that mix we see 2,000 head off the Miller Ranch that are trading up there in the heart of the Flint Hills, Kansas, near Strong City, Kansas. And these are just kind of put together cattle, or just cattle, although they're going to be green yearlings when they come off, and they're crossed up. They're going to be good growthy cattle there. Got a pinch of ear to them. Some of those cattle that are carrying a little bit too much ear will probably be taken off there at delivery, depending on what the market is whenever they come up. But those cattle sold for August to delivery to weigh 735 pounds at $233 which is $10 over what the board's trading for that right there. So that's a strong signal. We're going to have a good market coming off there. Another strong signal, Hub City livestock auction there in Aberdeen, South Dakota this week. Have a lot of those big, heavy, backgrounded yearlings. And what was really significant there was those big steers weighing over 1,000 pounds. The 10 to 1050s were $4 to $8 higher than the previous sale, and the 1050 to 1,100 pound steers were a full $10 higher than they were the week before. Now $10 ain't much on a 4-weight calf, but it's a lot on an 1,100 pound steer. And those 1,000, 1,100 pound steers are bringing 195 to 203.10, and that's pretty easy math. They're bringing well over 2,000 bucks a head. Another good sign there is even in the east, where we don't usually see a lot of big strings of yearlings sell, at the Russell County Stockyards in Russell Springs, Kentucky there, you see on Cattle Market Central, had 2 loads of steers, 133 head weighing 786, bring 233.40, and you can't throw a rock to a feedlot around there. Those cattle got to get some wheels and some more expense on them to get where they're going. But calf sales still continue slow. The Southeast always gets messed up when they have a pretty significant holiday, as all those Monday sales were closed, and then those shippers aren't really sure what they're going to get put together. And a lot of those Monday sales in the Southeast are the biggest sales of the week, and just kind of makes it real choppy, and most of those sales were unevenly steady. Not enough calves selling anywhere else really to have a good test of the market. Although in the Midwest and the Northern Plains, these 500-pound steers are routinely bringing over $3 again and still. So, but you know, these cow-calf guys are worried about getting their hay put up. Most of them should have already been in a hay field and haven't been able to, because it just it's been too wet. And even if they had a day where they could go in there and get it cut down, they know that the forecast is calling for weather that won't be suitable to cure that hay. And so they're just letting it grow, and it's getting thicker, and they're going to have a heck of a first cutting, but they may not get another one. Your fed cattle this week hung in there again. Now your live sales were mostly $1 lower, from 159 to 160, and that 160 is predominantly in the Southern Plains. And your dress sales in Northern Plains were steady to firm, so they're catching up just a pinch there, from 252 to 253. And we note that the Northern Plains is now selling at a slight discount to the Southern Plains, because it's heavily dominated by those calf feds, which just don't perform quite as well as those yearling place feeders. And we noticed on the last report that cattle that were slaughtered in Kansas were actually grading better. There was a higher percentage of them choice or higher than there was in Nebraska, and that's not the norm. But check out DV Auction for your regular weekly auctions and a lot of specials. You can also see this report on the StockExchangeNews.com and from a home office here in Maysville, Missouri. We'll talk to you next week.